Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of Umineko. Uh, Nice relaxing day of doing nothing? That sounds great. I'm glad you had a good one. Let me just... You know what? I'm just gonna start with our content warning. Also, hi. I hope you're all doing good. Our content warning for this arc of Umineko. Character deaths, detailed descriptions of gore and body horror, child abuse, discussion and mentions of suicide and misogyny. Just a whole range of very pleasant things that we might be dealing with in this episode. Considering everything that happened last time. Alright, I'll hold off on the recap. I was gonna save that for the very last anyway. To, set the tone. Because, there needs to be some tone setting. Because last time was, the whole thing. Thank you for the sub, Laura. Oh, almost a whole year, dang. Thank you so much. I am gonna skip, as always, I'm gonna skip the intro. Because we've seen that. Actually, I don't think we have seen that because it plays the second one by default. So we're gonna be seeing that in the future. So I'm just protecting you from spoilers right here. Yes. Gosh, okay, let me just find... Because I have a little thingy. Let me just find it. Okay, I found the thingy. But yes, another episode. I'm gonna try to go a little longer today, just like last week. Because the bit that I was anticipating last week is potentially gonna be pretty far in. I remembered the order of this episode entirely wrong. Even though I looked some of it up. Because the summary broke on the wiki, so I'm just going off by just the tiniest descriptions that are next to the music. There's no actual plot summary anymore. It's missing. I don't know what happened there. Yes, this is a different model. Hi. Also, hi Philosophy, how are you doing? On Wednesdays, I read Umineko, which is a visual novel series, or sound novel series. They're very focused on audio and music. About a murder mystery that keeps repeating, and there's some magic involved, and some logical reasoning. And we are 5 arcs in. We are almost wrapping up the 5th arc. I've been streaming this for an entire year almost now. So I would recommend maybe not. Well, it depends on how much you how much you care about spoilers, etc. Because oh boy, this is gonna just spoilers wise, this will slap you in the face. I will do a little recap, but I'm not gonna be able to recap 5 arcs for you. Yeah, it's been over 100. My playthrough so far is over 100 hours. So that's it's been a labor of love, shall we say? Because I love doing this series. I say that every single week. I love this series, and I'm glad I can share it with everyone. But man, I can imagine it not being easy to get into at this point. I started this one, it was just coming out in 2012, so... But yes. I am just gonna, do the usual thing. It's hard to do something for that long, but I think in this case, my hype, outweighs anything else. I'm just happy I get to do this, I really am. It's because people are actually sticking around and following the story, and it's been great. But last episode, was a rough one. We started off with, you know, the usual back and forth. Red Truth versus Blue Truth and vice versa. Battler versus Delanor. And in the end, Battle is, he cannot figure it out. And Delanor keeps shooting him down left and right with Nox's this manyth, Nox's that manyth, you know, Nox's 8th. I forget which one the 8th is actually. But like, she just knocks everything that he sets up down. And until she hits him with just a complete barrage of red truth, which turns into a huge red sword and impales our protagonist. At which point he apologizes to Beatrice and dies. And at that point, Beatrice and her friends disappear, and the other witches continue the trial without either of them, Beatrice or Battler. And that's where he left off. Erika's now going to focus on the why done it, so why did Natsuhi supposedly kill her own child and several of you know, her family members? And yeah, it's rough. Battler is not around anymore. And yeah, the ref command is off when I'm not doing art streams, but it'll be back on if I ever have reference up. Alright, I am going to drink some tea real quick. Because, you know, I gotta... Oh, oops. Drinking makes the blush go on because apparently it looks like a thumbs up when I hold my mug. And tracking, yay. Also, Kat, you and I both know that Natsuhi is wait, no, you don't like her, do you? Stream Elements abandoned me with the snug, but thank you for the lurk. I'll have to adjust that command, because now I have a lurk emote. And this is this one. But yeah, have a good luck with the work. Have a good evening. Thank you for lurking. Alright. And then, there is a third riddle that the detective must uncover. The final riddle. The why done it. Why did they commit the crime? The motive. In third-grade mysteries, there's no need to uncover this. After all, even if you don't expose the motive, the culprit will just confess it when all is said and done. However, Fururo Erika was first-rate, so she would expose even this. I love this song. Natsuhi was confined in the parlor, under everyone's watchful gaze. Then, with everyone's assent, Erika diligently and persistently searched all places, even Natsuhi's room, for clues about her motive. Well, now that we all have gathered, just what is it that drove Ushirome and Natsuhi-san to commit these terrible murders? Through my investigation, I, the detective Fururo Erika, have discovered the general outline that explains this. I would like to announce it now. Everyone remained silent, urging her to continue. Erika tossed some of Natsuhi's possessions that had been confiscated onto the table. First, these are past diaries that were discovered in Natsuhi-san's room. They have barely been used at all in recent years, but they describe in detail the period shortly after she became a part of the Ushiromiya family. Most of them are locked, But in order to find the full truth behind this crime, I used my authority, which everyone has acknowledged, to destroy the locks on all of them. You monster. Reading another person's diary. If we're monsters, what does that make you, murderer? A criminal like you has no right to privacy. And this is what I found from these diaries. Natsuhi-san ended up married to Krao-san due to special circumstances. I imagine that all of you here know much more about this than I do. Natsuhi-san and Krao-san were not married because of love, or as a normal arranged marriage. If anything, it was more like taking a hostage. That is not true. This is written on the 24th page of this red diary. I am a hostage being imprisoned by the Ushinomiya family under the guise of marriage. However, if everything can be resolved this way... Natsuhi-san, right here, you've already admitted that you were a hostage. Kumasawa-san, you have served Natsuhi-san since the time she first came here, right? Could you tell me about what it was like at the time? Damn, Kumasawa. Right under the bus. Damn. Yes, that's correct. I did catch wind of something similar to what you describe. I think that, by now, the only ones who would know the details of Madame's marriage are Dr. Nanjo and myself. Very true. That was during Kinzo-san's golden era, when he did whatever he pleased. He defeated all of his enemies and expanded his financial power. Natsui-san's family was one of those enemies. As though the time to talk had suddenly come at hand, Kumasawa and Nanjo openly delved into territory that should never have been touched upon again. Cat always, chillways, misses the mackerel. It concerned the period during which Kinzo was most feared for his ferocity. Although he was financially very powerful and had many connections, the elite looked down upon him as an upstart, which gave him a complex about his social standing. To combat this, Kinzo wanted to find Krause a wife from a noble family, and use this to raise the Ushinomiya family's status. He waged a financial war against Natsui's family, beat them down, and then proposed that a marriage be performed as a method of reconciliation. And the person he picked was Natsuhi. She was a veritable princess, raised good and true by a family of Shinto priests. By choosing her, not only did Kinzo cause him the worst possible humiliation, he also won what he considered to be the greatest possible trophy. So that marriage proposal was humiliating to Natsuhi from the very beginning. Regarding the events of this period, both Kumasawa-san and Dr. Nanjo's claims just now match with the contents of the diaries. Therefore, since the time Natsuhi-san first took the name Ushinomiya Natsuhi, she has held a strong animosity towards the Ushinomiya family. What do you have to say, Natsuhi-san? Do you admit this? All of the cold gazes turned to face Natsuhi. It's true that I thought that at first. I thought I was being forced into a marriage without love, a hostage under the guise of a bride. However, my husband never viewed me as a mere hostage. He understood what I had gone through and gave me compassion and affection. My husband was the only person who could understand me. I see. That makes sense. There are indeed a number of places in your diaries illustrating that Krause-san knew of your difficulties, and showed concern for you. However, on page 47 of this diary here, you describe these moments as being unpleasant, correct? Let me read aloud. When Kraus tries to show consideration, it only makes me feel more wretched. Sometimes, I think he might even be trying to humiliate me further. From this, we can tell that Natsuhi-san was repulsed by her husband, and the concern he showed. Wait. Yes, I may have thought that at the beginning. Back when I lived every day in fear for my future, I couldn't accept his concern as true. And yes, I may have written of my distrust from time to time. But I eventually realized he was sincere and grew to accept his feelings. Well, nothing like that appears in any of these diaries. I never even wrote it down. Those feelings were so secret. Multiple diverse pieces of evidence and testimony make it clear that you had an intense hatred for your husband. On the other hand, your claim that you eventually accepted his feelings is unsupported by evidence. I loved my husband. You can't find any testimony or evidence that can be used to elevate that statement to the level of red truth, can you? Does a person need evidence to say they're in love? Nothing can be trusted except for red truth. Statements that aren't read don't count as evidence at all, and they can't be trusted at all. All text that is not read is a falsehood that exists to deceive me. I love him. Who would believe a profession of love in white text? No non-read words can ever be trusted. The only things that can be trusted in this world are the red truth and the pieces of evidence I offer to my master to obtain it. Erika, why are your sentences so hard? Seriously. She just kind of rambles, and it's hard for my reading comprehension. What? You lying humans can't speak the truth. Humans lacking the red truth have no right to speak of love, or the heart, or truth. Did you know? Men aren't as stupid as you women think they are. Men never really take it seriously when a woman says I love you. What a pitiful person. I see you've never truly loved someone. Romance is unnecessary for a detective. I don't think I've ever used the word romance except to explain the motive for murder. No matter what you say, we loved each other. I owe my husband an apology for always writing down my complaints and nothing else. But I gave my heart to him. Even if I can't prove it with evidence, that is the truth. Overruled. You just don't know what to give up, do you? From evidence and testimony, it's clear by now that you hated both your husband and the Ushiromiya family. That's right. I can't even count the number of times I've heard you complain. Don't we all? I remember there being days when you talked behind Hideyoshi-san's back. You killed my husband. How dare you say that? Die. Die so you can apologize to my husband in the afterlife. Please cease your violence, Eva-san. This is my delectable moment where I question and convict the culprit. It's not yours, okay? Now then. Over the next several years, she appeared to have gotten used to her new way of life. But in actuality, an intense hatred still lurked in her heart. Taking that into consideration, there'd be nothing odd at all about her deciding to take revenge. Don't act like you know what I'm thinking. Each time Erika read from Natsuhi's diaries, she exposed another of Natsuhi's emotions during those painful days. Natsuhi hadn't written them down to record them for posterity. She had written to forget those memories and seal them away. That was why, after writing down her feelings during those painful days, she had locked them up and sealed them away for all eternity. However, Erika claimed that these were Natsuhi's true, hidden feelings that had been locked away and concealed. Since it had already been concluded that Natsuhi was a murderer, everyone accepted Erika's claim. By this point, the red truth wasn't even necessary to establish Natsuhi's motive. As long as the reasons seemed plausible, everyone would believe it. No matter how much Natsuhi might object, no one would believe her. No one could accept the truth Natsuhi spoke of, about the days she had spent loving her husband. And so it was being painted over by a false truth in which she hated her husband and swore revenge against him. The pen of the gods that composes the truth had been given to Erika. Also, Kat, I think that's actually a really good theory. And so what? Who gives a damn about your past? Murderer! Murderer! Stop that. I can understand how Natsuhi-san felt. Gee, Kumasawa, what the fuck? I always thought this day might come, eventually. Poor thing. Poor thing. What? Okay, I'm good. I got angry. I legit got angry at Kumasawa there. I'm okay. I'm calm. I'm cool. I'm chill. I think she's another one of the pitiable victims of father's wild life. I knew of the pain in Madame's heart. I always tried to support her. But I failed, and look what has happened. I don't even understand the emotions of love and hate. You will, someday. They can give you a reason to live, and also a reason to kill. Is Aunt Natsuhi really the culprit? Well, now that you mention it, there is one last person besides Natsuhi-san that might be the culprit. What? Hey, are you serious? Why the hell didn't you say something that important sooner? Natsuhi-san, the truth is, there is one person besides you for whom the crime was possible. If you insist on claiming that you aren't the culprit, it means that person must be the culprit. Huh? Who is it? Who? I actually also thought she was gonna blame Kraus, but she says, Ushiromiya Kinzo-san. Early this morning, Kinzo-san went outside through the window of the third-floor study, and his location is unknown. Isn't that right, Ballet-san? Just like Natsuhi-san, Kinzo-san has no alibi whatsoever. The truth is, for this crime, it was possible for Kinzo-san to be the culprit as well. I simply assumed that he never existed in the first place, so I completely forgot about him, until this very moment. Allow me to apologize. She didn't look shy or apologetic in the slightest. Erika bowed in as unpleasant a manner as ever. Even now, she's still holding a grudge over her defeat in the study. Natsuhi-san, you gained Kinzo-san's trust and are the person who served closest to him, isn't that right? In that case, I think you understand better than anyone else that this incident is actually the crime of the family head, carried out by Ushiromiya Kinzo-san. You dare call father a criminal? Don't worry. Even if Kinzo-san is actually the culprit, I've prepared more than enough evidence and testimony to explain the why done it. Even if you were to say, for example, that you were putting yourself on the line to cover for Kinzo's crime, I am more than capable of carrying forward such a plot. In recent years, even the theories created by the the detective can sometimes change the plot itself. You really can't afford to be careless in this day and age. Branding father as a killer. I clicked too many times again. Branding father as a killer is something I will not allow. Natsuhiko-san, calm down. Place your hand on your chest. Think carefully. If you accuse Kinzo-san of being the culprit, this entire case will be resolved. You will no longer be held accountable for another person's actions, and your honor will be restored. In other words, by pushing the crime onto Kinzo, Natsuhi would be saved. However, I have been entrusted with the honor of the Ushiromiya family by father. Do you really think that I would defile father's honor, the Ushiromiya family honor, just to clear away the false accusations made against me? Of course, Natsuhi knew that she wasn't the culprit, and she also knew that Kinzo wasn't. So being framed herself and pushing the blame onto Kinzo were both unacceptable, unbearable outcomes. Are you sure? As I have already established quite thoroughly, alibis have been proven for everyone except you. If you do not accuse Kinzo-san, then it really will be clear that you are the culprit, and that will become the truth. If labeling me as the culprit is what you call truth, then you can do as you please. I am certain that God knows I am innocent, and one day he will prove it. If it came to a choice between her or Kinzo being framed for these crimes, Natsuhi would sacrifice herself. Perhaps that was her way of protecting the Ushiromiya family honor. Natsuhi. And I even gave you a chance. Stupid woman. This future where your name will eventually be cleared doesn't exist. Not for you or any of the other pieces in this game. Natsuhi had made her decision. If they were going to call her the culprit, she would let them. She boldly rejected the thought of selling Kinzo's honor to gain a momentary truth where she wasn't the culprit. And, therefore, the tale would be woven with her as the culprit. If, in the future, the accusations against her were to be proven false, this tale would probably be rewritten. However, such a future would never come. I think truth is a fleeting thing. Even if I am a good person up until my death, if some heartless person after my death writes down that I wasn't a good person, and that is shared with everyone else, then even all the goodness in which I had lived my life will be overwritten easily. And so I think I must live as a good person for all eternity. If you claim that Kinzo-san was not the culprit, he will need an alibi which proves that the crimes are impossible for him. Otherwise, we cannot truly be certain that you are the culprit, Natsuhi-san. Despite all your claims up until now. Damn. She's just, I don't know. She's just mean. Erika had to be well aware by now that Kinzo was nothing more than an illusion to muddy the waters of the inheritance problem. However, proving him to be an illusion would be very hard. The only way to do this would be to confirm Kinzo's death. But Kinzo died a long time ago, as revealed by the red truth of previous games. And in this fifth game, his body hasn't even appeared. Under these circumstances, it wouldn't be easy to prove his death conclusively. Yeah, she wants to drag it out and also just to break Natsuhi, I think. Because hey, if there's one person who can confirm that Kinzo is in fact not alive, it's her. And maybe Kumasawa. I mean, she's throwing people under buses left and right. Might as well add another one to the tally, right? Okay, I'm still bitter. If Kinzo's death could be confirmed, it would practically erase that defeat in the study. It was the only way Erika had of negating the humiliation of her loss. And there was something that could confirm Kinzo's death almost as certainly as real proof. And that was the confession of the culprit. She would have Natsuhi herself admit that Kinzo no longer existed in this world. That way, it would be acknowledged that Erika's reasoning in the study was correct. That loss would be painted over, and it would be rewritten as Erika's victory. Girl, you still lost, no matter what. Sorry, I almost forgot that Balor fucking died. The pain is still fresh. Okay, I need some tea. I wrote my little summary for the beginning. So I had to rewatch what happened a little bit. And I was, you know, scrubbing through, and the bit where he gets fucking stabbed made me tear up again. That's twice in 1 week where that happened. Almost thrice, jeez. Sorry for the break, I'm just aggressively finishing this mug of tea. You know, from all my feelings. I am taking my time, it's just... This part of the arc is just... It's a lot. It's a lot. Especially in hindsight. It's, an eye-opener, you could say. But, you know, in a good way, it's just... It hurts. Okay. Yes, the tea is now, finished and will therefore never go cold. Balor hung, suspended by Dalinor's red longsword. Beato had disappeared by having her existence denied. And her minions had gone too. Now that they had disappeared from this cathedral, only Natsuhi and the witches convicting her remained. So, you still claim that Kinzo is alive and remains somewhere on this island? Yes, I do. Father is in good health. No matter what anyone says, I will not change my statement. The real truth in the previous games says that Kinzo is already dead. But that's not enough to satisfy you, right, Byrne? Yeah, that's right. I'm after a perfect victory. So there's nothing interesting about getting a checkmate just because Kinzo's death has been confirmed by the Red. I want to win by forcing Natsuhi to say that she's resigned. Then why don't you try it? Show me what you've got. My master, let us now achieve a perfect victory. Of course. Natsuhi, you say that Kinzo is certainly alive, but you don't know where he is, correct? Yes, that's right. Father left through the window and his location is unknown. He's so troublesome sometimes. I am done. I'm going to make Kinzo's location from midnight until the morning absolutely clear. From midnight until morning, Kinzo stayed in the same room. Huh? Well, duh, he was a corpse after all.
No, I'm sorry. That's right, totally right. I won't butt in. It sounds interesting, so keep going.
From now on, I will use the word Kinzo to mean a living Kinzo. After all, Natsuhi claims that he's alive. I'll say more with the red truth. Oh my fucking, this is such a... I see what you did there. Kinzo does not exist anywhere outside the mansion. Isn't that right, Erika?
Yes, my master. I searched for Kinzo all over the premises outside the mansion. However, I was unable to find him.
Because of the detective's authority, Erika could find all clues. Therefore, if Erika was unable to find a hint that Kinzo existed outside the mansion, it was the same as proving that Kinzo didn't exist outside the mansion. Therefore, Barncastle repeated that truth of Erika's. Kinzo does not exist outside the mansion. So, Natsuhi, that means that if Kinzo exists, he must be somewhere inside the mansion. Do you have any idea where Kinzo might be hiding?
How could I know? After all, think of the weather. After going out into the courtyard, it would not be surprising at all if he hid somewhere in the mansion to escape the rain.
I'm going to repeat that same question several times during this process. I'll give you many chances for an honorable surrender. If you're too stubborn, you'll lose even your true honor.
No matter how you threaten me, I will not give in.
I just love teasing pieces like you. Then, let's keep going. Uh-oh, I'm worried.
For these reasons, it is unthinkable that Kinzo-san might be somewhere outside the mansion. After learning that, we performed an extensive search of the 3rd floor, where the study is.
However, there was nowhere he could have been hiding. We didn't catch any trace of that on the 3rd floor.
So then, where is he, Natsuhi-san? I don't know. If he isn't on the 3rd floor, perhaps he's hiding in the basement. Ah, yes, the basement. We searched all of that suspicious basement, including the boiler room and the underground storeroom. Yes, I searched too. I didn't see Father anywhere. I'll ask again. Where is Kinzo-san, Natsuhi-san? In that case, he was probably on the 1st floor or the 2nd floor. I see. Process of elimination does tell us that, doesn't it? We then thoroughly searched the 1st floor. And the result?
Nope. We were unable to find Father.
I'll ask again. Where was Kinzo-san, Natsuhi-san? Then he was probably hiding on the 2nd floor. How should I know where Father is hiding? Are you sure about that? I think you know very well where Kinzo-san was hiding.
Madam knows where the master was hiding? That's impossible.
That can't be true.
Both Shannon and Kanon knew that Kinzo was no longer alive, so they didn't have a clue how Erika was planning to corner Natsuhi, using a phantom of a person who didn't exist. I don't like that look on her face. Kinzo is nowhere outside the mansion. Kinzo isn't on the 3rd floor. Kinzo isn't in the basement. Kinzo isn't on the 1st floor.
Blech.
Therefore, the only place Kinzo could possibly exist is the 2nd floor.
accept that red truth. Natsuhi, Kinzo should be somewhere on the second floor. Will you still not tell us where he's hiding?
Oh boy, I remember. Interesting, cat. I will not comment on theories in case I give stuff away on accident, but interesting. No matter how many times you ask, it won't change the fact that I don't know. Erika, investigate the entire second floor, starting from one end and going in order. Use the detective's authority to avoid missing a single clue and to see through all types of hidden doors and hidden rooms.
Yes, my master. Natsuhi-san, you're quite slow, aren't you? Can you still not see where we're going with this?
No need to give it away. Come on, Erika. Take everyone with you and begin the investigation. Now, Kat, I think you remembered that correctly, that was one of the theories that Balor threw around. And I don't think it was refuted, if I recall. I could be wrong. Erika used her detective's authority to take everyone, even Natsuhi, up to the second floor to search every room, starting at one end. Even for rooms that were thought to have nothing at all to do with the crime, Erika did not relax her search in the slightest. Her search was thorough in every single room as they moved through them all.
So, you still won't tell us where Kinzo-san is hiding?
Stop saying that! How many times do I have to say that I don't know?
Natsuhi-san, it doesn't matter where we search. We won't ever be able to find Kinzo-san, will we?
Of course not. Kinzo doesn't exist. No matter how long the search continues, it's just a waste of time. This was known by both Erika, who was the witch's piece, and Natsuhi, the one who knew the truth.
In that case, this search will end at the room on the far end of that corridor. In other words, it will have been proven that Kinzo wasn't in any of the rooms, except that one. What do you think will happen then?
He isn't on the third floor, or the first floor, or the basement. And he isn't in any of the rooms on the second floor, except possibly the one at the end. So if he really did exist inside the mansion, it had been proven that he could not be in any room except for that room at the end. In other words, this was Hempel's Raven, because it had been established that a living Kinzo didn't exist anywhere except the final room at the end of the corridor. That automatically meant that a living Kinzo existed in that final room. I was going to say something, but no. And that room at the end of the corridor was...
Which room was at the end of the corridor again?
Lambda Delta was munching on another refill of popcorn.
That's Natsuhi's room, Lady Lambda Delta.
In other words, Kinzo had no place to hide except inside Natsuhi's room. Do I need to say it in red?
Of course.
Kinzo does not exist anywhere outside Natsuhi's room.
Well then, that means this room is the only place left. From everything we have learned, We now know that Kinzo-san isn't anywhere outside this room.
But this is my room. Where exactly in my room do you claim father is hiding? In a rage, Natsuhi unlocked the door to her room and pointed inside. Of course, Kinzo was nowhere to be seen. Do you see father anywhere in here? Look!
Yes, it seems as though he isn't here. Do you think he realized we were coming and escaped out the window again?
If Kinzo wasn't in this last room, it meant that he didn't exist anywhere. There is no living Kinzo outside the mansion. There is no living Kinzo inside the mansion. Therefore, no living Kinzo exists. However, Erika didn't make that argument. She had brought things to this point, but she didn't make it checkmate. It was because Burncastle didn't want to win by cornering Natsuhi with the red truth, but by forcing Natsuhi to admit to a humiliating resignation.
I have not only been searching for Kinzo-san himself all this time, I have also been looking for any sign at all that Kinzo-san hid in these places between midnight and the morning, and no such signs have existed. In other words, we know that from midnight until morning, Kinzo was always holed up in the same room. And that was Natsuhi's room.
It means the checkmate of the red truth is finally trapped the piece known as the illusion of Kinzo inside Natsuhi's room.
So, Natsuhi-san, that means you were with Kinzo in this room until morning. Do you still claim that you didn't know where he was? I'll acknowledge it with the red truth. For the entire duration of the night between midnight and morning, a living Kinzo could not have existed anywhere outside Natsuhi's room. Based on this truth, I permit you to continue the debate under the assumption that he could only have existed in Natsuhi's room.
Plea bargain. Come on, Natsuhi. Even someone as stupid as you must have realized the fix you're in now. This is your last chance. Make Kinzo the culprit. Call the Ushiromiya family head a criminal, and crush the head's honor to save your own skin. If you show that you have the guts to do that, I'll change the plot into one of a tragic heroine taking the blame to protect the family head. Father is innocent. I cannot call father a criminal.
Deal refused. Okay, Vern. Do it.
For the entire duration of the night between midnight and morning, a living Kinzo could not have existed in any place except inside your bed. What do you mean by that?
After conducting a thorough search of this room and detailed forensic testing, I discovered that Kinzo did not exist anywhere in this room between midnight and morning. However, your bed alone is excluded from this.
A shocked silence dominated the room. Natsuhi completely forgot to close her open mouth.
Last night, at around the time the gold was discovered, I estimate 11 p.m., Kinzo-san escaped from the window on the 3rd floor and snuck into the bed in your room. And, as an even more unfortunate result from my investigation, it has been proven that you were also sleeping in that bed.
I'll repeat that. For the entire duration of the night between midnight and morning, a living Kinzo could not have existed in any place except inside Natsuhi's bed. And last night, Natsuhi also slept in that same bed.
Wow, look how close they were. So, you two were so close to each other you slept sharing the same pillow?
Blue truth. Therefore, we can conjecture that Ushiromiya Natsuhi and Ushiromiya Kinzo had sexual relations with each other. Why else would a man and a woman share the same bed all night long? How dare you to suggest that I would do such a thing with the father I respected so much? I won't allow you to say such things.
Natsuhi, use the red truth to counter this blue truth. Of course, you aren't a witch, so there's no red that you can use. So I'll speak with the red truth in your place. If you can show me convincing proof.
How could there possibly be proof of that? How low are you willing to sink to mock me? You vile creature. Natsuhi tried to attack Erika, but Ava pinned her arms behind her back, so she couldn't do anything.
How unsightly. In order to take revenge against the Ushiromiya family, you first schemed to take control of everything the family owned. For that reason, you used your body as a weapon and ensnared Kinzo-san.
I would never do anything of the sort. I've never given my body to anyone except my husband.
I understand why you'd try to deny it. You'd want to deny it even. But testimony from several witnesses makes it clear that you have had repeated secret meetings with Kinzo-san. I mean, even last night, you and Kinzo-san were all alone in his study when you went to say goodnight to him, weren't you? Not only that, I've obtained multiple pieces of testimony claiming that there were clear traces of sexual relations.
Are you insane? Who was it? Who said something so ridiculous? Koda? Shannon? Was it Ava-san? Yes, you must be behind something this ludicrous. Who was it? Who?
Ah. I acknowledge receipt of the relevant party's testimony. Wow, this is pretty fatal. There's no room for doubt now.
Hey, Natsuhi. Looks like you don't even have a scrap of honor left now. I'll give you one final chance before I weave you the worst of all possible fragments. Say to me that there was no Kinzo.
Yeah. Natsuhi, you sure are stubborn. The Ushiromiya family has already been torn to ribbons, right? Are you really that desperate to confuse the inheritance problem by pretending Kinzo exists?
This is my final trial, entrusted to me by father, in protecting the honor of the Ushiromiya family. My husband's business will definitely bear fruit. Until we can use that to repay our debts, I cannot hand over the inheritance of the Ushiromiya family. I will protect father's honor and my husband's. That is my mission.
Wanting to protect the honor of the dead is an admirable trait.
He's not one of the dead. We're talking about the honor of a convenient delusion inside Natsuhi's head. The real Kinzo never once ordered Natsuhi to do anything like protect his honor. Natsuhi screams. I will spare your ears. As she screamed, she fell down to her hands and knees. She no longer had any way to reject the fake truth that Perncastle and Erika had weaved.
By my name as Game Master Lambda Delta, I acknowledge that Lady Perncastle is the victor of this game. If anyone has any objections, state your name now.
course, there were none. All of those who might have objected had been erased.
No objections. You win, Burn, and what a win it was. Now weave the fragment of truth.
Sure. Then I will now weave the truth. This is the truth of this sad and foolish tale. Although, what I really wanted was for Natsu to admit to her crimes while smiling through tears and then tell her own story. After all, that's standard in the genre, right? It's not a perfect victory. After being forced into an unwanted marriage, Natsuhi developed a grudge against the Ushinomiya family and was filled with a desire for revenge. Thank you for the save reminder, Vape. I will save right now. And then drink some water. For reading purposes. Hey Vape, welcome. How are you doing? Excuse me, I'm just doing a little posture check. Cause been sitting like a gremlin a bit too much lately. There we go. That's better. Okay. About to go to bed? Alright, well, sleep well. Good night. And thank you for dropping by. And for reminding me to save. Trial summary, page 3. As revenge for financially ruining her birth family, Natsuhi also plotted to take over the Ushinomiya family's fortune. Trial summary, page 4. When Natsuhi learned that the wealth of the Ushinomiya family was for all intents and purposes controlled by Kinzo himself, she initiated sexual relations to curry favor with him and managed to ensnare him. Trial summary, page 7. Bergcastle documents, page 682. To curry favor with Kinzo, Natsuhi repeatedly disguised herself as Beatrice, a witch and figment of Kinzo's imagination, and engaged in sexual acts. Kinzo saw Natsuhi dressed as the mistress from his past and was easily ensnared. Additionally, a servant happened to witness her in this outfit, forming part of the basis for the legend of the witch. Trial summary, page 8. Submitted evidence, number 17. Bergcastle documents, page 802. However, late at night, on 1986, on October 4th, 1986. Why is it backwards like that? Ushinomiya battler discovered the hidden gold. Natsuhi planned the crimes after the relatives raised a fuss and insisted that battler should succeed the headship. Yeah, it's totally Americanized. She murdered the children in the cousin's room and tried to frame battler for the crime. Furthermore, Genji was murdered because he was opposed to the scheme. Later on, Hideyoshi was also murdered. After this point, Natsuhi displayed a strong intent to murder all those involved, without discrimination. Trial summary, page 27. Supplemental materials B, page 61. Bergcastle documents, page 1103. The concrete details of the crimes are as follows. October 4th, 1986, midnight. Natsuhi decided to commit the crimes. Because Genji refused to assist her when asked, she murdered him. She then murdered her husband Kraus in his own room. Trial summary, page 40. Supplemental materials S, page 8. Burn Castle documents, page 1105. Great Court internal documents. Library of Law A09, number 9974. Afterwards, she went to the cousin's room on the upper floor of the guest house, waited for Rosa to join the rest, and killed George, Jessica, Maria, and Rosa. She mutilated the necks of the bodies. Afterwards, because there were people in the downstairs lounge, she waited in an empty room upstairs. She hid in this empty room until the people in the lounge dispersed and went to bed. Trial summary, page 41. Supplemental materials S, page 10. Burn Castle documents, page 1131. Great Court internal documents, Library of Law A09, 9974. I can read numbers. Yeah, I can read numbers. Totally. The people in the lounge dispersed just after 3 a.m. Natsuhi left the empty room and escaped from the guest house. She returned to her room, where she met up with Kinzo, who had been hiding there. They spent the rest of the night there together. Kinzo left the room early next morning and concealed himself somewhere near the guest house. Trial summary, page 41. Supplemental materials S, page 29. Burn Castle documents, page 1200. Great Court internal documents, Library of Law A09, 9974. Afterwards, Kinzo saw his chance and carried off the bodies of the 6 victims one by one, hiding them. Unfortunately, these hidden bodies have not been found. Trial summary, page 42. Supplemental materials S, page 37. Great Court internal documents, Library of Law A09, 9974. Natsuhi, who had failed in her scheme to cast suspicion on Battler, changed her plan to include the murder of all present. Trial summary, page 58. Supplemental materials T, page 19. Burn Castle documents, page 1348. Great Court internal documents, Library of Law A09, 9974. Predicting that one of those present would eventually want to take a rest in a private room, Natsuhi concealed herself inside a closet in one of their guest rooms. When Hideyoshi visited that room at approximately 1 p.m., she murdered him. Trial summary, page 61. Supplemental materials page 26. Great Court internal documents, Library of Law A09, 9974. I don't know what that is. It's the same number every time. Realistically, I think that would be something like... Hold on, can I scroll up here? I can. My guess is that would be something that, like, makes up the definition of, like, murder. Right? Because it's a law thing, so it's like, this is what we understand as being a murder, so in accordance with these laws. That's my take. Natsuhi once again concealed herself in the closet from the time the others became aware of the incident to the time that they carried out Hideyoshi's body. Furthermore, as proof of this, a button from Natsuhi's clothes was found in the closet. Afterwards, she exited the closet and tried to return to her own room. However, Furuto Erika discovered her on the way and Natsuhiko confessed to her crimes after questioning. That is incorrect. Trial summary, page 63. Supplemental materials T, page 32. Submitted evidence, number 26. Berncastle documents, 1348. Lambda Delta documents, line 7. Lambda's the kid who doesn't do the homework, you know? Wait, shit. It all makes sense now, never mind. This is like an obscure foreshadowing reference to the recent Higurashi anime. I'm dead serious. Great Court Internal Documents, Library of Law, AO9, 9974. Great Court Internal Documents, Legal Management, U990107. Great Court Official Notice, 01724434. Remind me to, like, elaborate a bit on the sort of universe that this series is set in after this episode. And then I'll tell you all about it. Great Court Official Notice, 01724434. Trial of Illusions, number 0147-007982. October 4th, midnight, October 5th, midnight, 1986. I guess midnight comes last. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. Why would you start with the year first? That's so weird. Ushirumi and Natsuhi confessed to the crimes. Oh, it decides as follows, that she confessed. For a period of 13 months following this announcement, related documents may be perused at the Great Court Legal Office's Document Management Center, first subsection. Great Court Deputy Attorney General, Chief Inquisitor, Delanora A. Knox. Well, that sounds official. Then just say that I did it, okay? That's what you want me to say, right? As though she had given up and decided that it would be useless to try and talk her way out of this any longer. Aunt Natsuhi said that, and screamed. I interpreted it as crying, but it was screaming. It was a sad incident. I wanted to believe that, despite the pitiable circumstances which led to her marriage into the Ushirimiya family, Aunt Natsuhi had been able to find some small measure of happiness with Uncle Kraus and Jessica. But instead, by Aunt Natsuhi's own hand, Uncle Kraus, and even her beloved daughter Jessica, had been heartlessly killed. It was even harder to believe that grandfather had been an accomplice and hid the bodies. However, several people had given clear testimony that grandfather's mental state for these last few years had been far from what anyone would consider normal. Perhaps possessed by a mad devotion to the mistress he had lost long ago. Grandfather might truly have believed that Aunt Natsuhi was a reincarnation of Beatrice. Where is grandfather now? Like Erica theorized, did he really believe that he could revive Beatrice by carrying out murders following the epitaph? And succumb to Natsuhi's cajolery? Right now, is he holding some kind of disturbing ritual with the bodies he carried away? I agree, we need a universal format. That makes sense. Are you satisfied now? This is what you wanted to make me say, right? Aunt Natsuhi sobbed as she spoke. This is your revenge, isn't it? You, the man from 19 years ago. This man from 19 years ago that Natsuhi kept mentioning was the man who had supposedly framed her. However, referring to a man from 19 years ago was as far as she would go, and she made no attempt at all to explain what had actually happened back then. I'm certain that a pawn of that man is among us now. I'm sure that right now that man is ridiculing me through one of you. So tell me, are you happy now? Has a little of that pain and suffering you've endured for 19 years gone away? I finally understand. The reason you brought me down to this point is because you wanted to make me admit it, isn't it?
Natsuhi-san, other than us, there's absolutely no one here. Please stop this insanely desperate charade and quit pretending that someone who doesn't exist actually does.
Erika laughed mockingly, but as Aunt Natsuhi looked at us, no, she looked at some being behind us. She hung her head and shook. Then she confessed to her sin. I committed murder.
So, you finally admit your crime directly.
No. This is not about what has happened today and yesterday. I confessed to a murder that occurred 19 years ago. The adults all whispered together, wondering what this was about, because they had never heard about a murder case 19 years ago. 19 years ago, I committed a sin. I couldn't tolerate it. That baby.
Baby? Now what are you talking about?
On that day 19 years ago, Father entrusted me with a baby. Since I was having so much trouble conceiving a successor, Father told me to adopt a child. And he brought me a baby which he said was from a welfare institute. And he put it in my arms. Do you have any idea how humiliating that was to me as a woman? With a mix of conflicting emotions, of anger, sadness, regret, and possibly defiance, Aunt Natsuhi confessed. The humiliation as a woman that others had given up hope on her ever bearing a child, and also the indescribably unpleasant feeling of being made to nurse a strange baby. It caused her great sadness and rage, and before very many nights passed, it ate a hole into her heart. And then I sold my soul to demons. It happened when I went on a walk through the rose garden to the harbor, along with a servant holding the baby. I wanted to be alone, but that servant woman holding the baby faithfully followed me everywhere. I was unable even to tell her to stop following me, and therefore unable to escape from the child's crying. That day marked the beginning of 19 long, headache-filled years. Then, we were by the fence overlooking the cliff. If by taking that baby and throwing it down onto the rocky beach far below me, I could make all this go away, I really did hear that demonic temptation in my ear. And, for the smallest of moments, I thought of how wonderful it would be if I really could do that, and lent an ear to that temptation. And that was when the servant holding the baby stepped on a large rock, twisted her ankle, and staggered. She leaned against the rough fence, and at that moment, I thought I heard the fence creak loudly. I told her to look out and went to grab her shoulder. No, I shouldn't be so vague. I'll repent. I'll
confess. At that moment, I'm sure that, as I told her to look out, with both hands, I reached for that servant's shoulders and, with a thud, I pushed her away hard. The rough fence snapped from the base, and the servant, along with the baby held in her arms, fell down towards the rocky beach below. Even though I remember that moment vividly, for some reason I recall a vague and very strange feeling. It almost felt as though instead of falling, the two of them were silently swallowed up into empty space. So I never even heard the sound of them crashing to the rocky beach. No, I must have heard it, but because I wanted to think that they'd simply disappeared, I must have erased that sound from my memory. And then, for an instant, I thought it was a dream. It was high enough that I couldn't see the two of them below me just by leaning over, so I couldn't tell whether their fall, the events of just a few seconds earlier, had actually happened or not. I must have been wishing so strongly that the child would fall from there, that I hallucinated the whole thing. Trying to make myself believe this, I hurried back to the rose garden. I decided to say that I'd left the baby with a servant and had been taking a rest alone in the garden. And then, Father asked what had happened to the baby. Which caused a stir over the disappearance of the servant who I'd left the baby with. Eventually, the broken fence was discovered, and the two corpses were found at the bottom of a cliff. The baby's origins apparently couldn't be made known, so its existence was hushed up. And the official story was that the servant simply died in an accident, alone. That's right. I stole away 2 innocent lives in one go. As for the poor servant, her family was generously compensated. This was enough to satisfy her aged husband, who grieved over the unfortunate accident. He never knew the truth. Then, just a few years ago, he died of old age, and I confessed the truth over his grave, apologizing. But to this day, I've never apologized to that baby. Yes, that's what you're after, isn't it? So right here, right now, I'll confess to my crime. Yoshiromi Natsuhi, did 19 years ago push you off a cliff and tried to kill you. But you didn't die after all. You're still alive, and you still call me mother. You came to this island, and took your revenge on me, didn't you? When you learned that you were pushed off a cliff by the woman you should have been calling a mother for the past 19 years. You must have lived a life so full of hatred. And now, you've taken everything I've gained since pushing you off that cliff. 18 years of my life, and smashed it all to pieces. I no longer have my beloved husband or daughter, and I've lost even my honor. And I'm being called a murderer. No, I really am a murderer, aren't I? Yes, that's right. It all went according to your plans. I'm now regarded as a killer. How is this for you? Is this enough? For your revenge? My husband and daughter have been killed. I've been made to look like a murderer, like an adulteress even. After seeing me put through such terrible humiliation, are you satisfied? Yes, I'll bet you're quite satisfied. Because my family, my honor,
Everything has been taken from me.
After all this, you still claim that you were framed. Seriously, you just don't know when to give up.
Can you hear me? You, the cursed baby from 19 years ago. Are you satisfied now? You've taken everything from me. What more do you want? Please, just forgive me. Sorry, I'm emotional. I don't know why, but that bit really got to me. Like, I'm already knew all that happened, but it really got to me nonetheless. Again, I like Natsuhiko a lot. I feel really bad for her because she loves this stupid, useless husband of hers, and nobody really is ever in her corner, ever. But then she also did kind of a terrible thing 19 years ago, but has also like suffered for it ever since. So I don't know, I have a lot of sympathy for her. And Kat, you are right. She's a bad person. Well, she's a person who did bad things, let me put it that way. But we're gonna get into that long term. Like at the end of the whole series, I have like a big ramble prepared. Like I'm mentally already writing it down. And I'm gonna touch on that. It does like she's like, "Oh, forgive me," but she never does say sorry, does she? That's like my one big gripe with her there. But then she's also like stressed as fuck, and that's fair. Anyway, another reason to get emotional is like you said, Balor's words. It's useless.
Balor-san, did you say something?
It's all useless.
Balor.
Yeah, it's useless. It's all useless. And then there's yelling.
Holy shit.
This is too fast for me to read. I'm very sorry. They love doing that. They love making these so speedy that you just can't read them out loud. Like I can try, but I will not catch up. Gap. Oh shit. I thought we were like way behind. Ooh. Okay, we might be able to finish this today. So that song is called Solitary Deep Sea Fish, and it's one of my favorites, but most of them are one of my favorites. Huh. Okay. There's some stuff in this version that wasn't in the first 4 arcs. Now, solitary deep sea fish, as in like a lonely one, not salty.
Is mackerel salt water fish?
I don't know anything about mackerel. Oh, music box unlocked. Already? Wait, that's too early. That shouldn't be out yet. We'll get to that at some point. It's quite salty. Okay, good to know. Anyway, we have our tea party unlocked, so I know we just dive right in there.
Erika. Dilemma. Yes, my master. You called? I want you two to stay in this fragment and explain everything in the remaining 1st through 4th games. That pitiful transient witch no longer exists to assert her witch illusions. Expose the naked truth with extreme prejudice. Leave it to me, my master. There is no mystery that Furuto Erika cannot solve. Of course. That's why you're my piece. My double.
Berncastle wore a massive and horrible smile, which Erika shared. Beatrice's witch illusions would disappear, and the results of all of the previous games would be painted over. It had been crushed in every way possible, and only the naked truth remained. To Erika, such a weak truth might as well have been fish on a chopping board.
All 4 prior games can be explained as either Natsuhi's crimes or freak exceptions. I won't let anyone talk about them as the crimes of some witch called Beatrice again. I'll start compiling it together at once and present you a first-rate tale. You mustn't leave even a single fragment of Beato's legend of the witch behind. The rumors among the servants, the way people talked about unexplained events as though a witch was the cause. The witch illusions used alongside the illusion of Kinzo. Deal with all of them completely. Of course. I'll get to it right away. We currently have the furniture in custody. We're hurrying to identify their vessels.
Umineko. The 7 Sisters of Purgatory had already been taken into custody. Those noisy sisters who had served Beato now faced nothing but denial. What sort of fantasy were they based upon which allowed them to manifest? Everything would be exposed and denied. Eisene Jungfrau has already begun its investigation. Our most recent findings indicate that there is a high probability that they were produced during the 1960s in New York or somewhere nearby. An aide has already been sent to the location. The 1960s. The 7 Sisters of Purgatory made in USA. Even though they bragged about being furniture connected with King Solomon and serving a 1,000-year-old witch, they're a total sham. So what are they?
According to the report, there's this group of big-time swindlers who make money by selling high-priced imitation goods to rich fans of the occult.
The deceived millionaires resell the articles with invented histories, and this may have caused the items to become falsely deified among collectors. We are rushing to find confirmation and further details.
Yoshinomiya Kinzo was apparently a big customer of theirs who would pay exorbitant sums for the most blatantly fake objects. And that's what the Seven Sisters of Purgatory really are. That's ridiculous. A total sham. Just what I'd expect from one of Beato's witch illusions. So, despite calling themselves the Seven Deadly Sins, they're actually cheap, fake souvenirs. Of course. From the first time I saw them, I figured they were nothing more than paperweights sold at some shady souvenir shop. Paperweights. Have you confronted the Seven Sisters with that truth yet? No, not yet. They still seriously believe that they were created by a great magician over 1,000 years ago. I can't wait to thrust the truth and perfect evidence in their faces, and let them know that they're mere paperweights worth less than $30 US. I wonder what kind of expressions will register on their faces as they lose all hope. I can't wait. Call me when you do it. Call me when you do it. I'll come to watch, with some of the best black tea and dried plums. Yeah, is getting scammed runs in the family, apparently. Beato's witch illusions had already been seen through, and it had been proven that every one of them was simply the result of a human fantasy. What kind of fantasies created them, and what was their basis? The illusions would be confronted with this perfectly proven truth. And at that time, they would disperse like smoke and be completely annihilated. This was called execution. And execution is not a show. As a general rule, it is not open to the public. This is an inspection by the great Lady Burncastle, member of the Senate, so she can observe that the Great Court is performing its duties satisfactorily. Sure, let's roll with it. Do you, a mere inquisitor, intend to obstruct this? Yes, that's right. I'm just observing as a representative of the Senate to make sure you observe the proper procedures when you carry out your work. We are currently preparing to take Virgilia, Ronove, and Gap into custody as well. The Chester Sisters' Imperial Guards are conducting that investigation. Of course, after that is done, we will then detain and execute the 3 Chester Sisters, who are also connected to Beatrice. Talenor, what is the true nature of the Chester Sisters? We believe there is a high likelihood that their vessels are weapons used in the crimes. My senior aide, Gertrude, has formed a dedicated team. We are currently investigating their individual cases. God, that's an interesting point. I'm looking forward to the Chester Sisters' execution too. One at a time, or all of them at once. No one's stupid enough to empty the entire can of tea leaves into the pot at once. You've got to enjoy it slowly, one spoonful at a time. Exactly. Let's hold their executions on consecutive days. One for each witch and piece of furniture. I'll present you with a new execution show every day. Wonderful. After all, there really are a lot of them. Looks like we'll be able to enjoy ourselves for a full 2 weeks. Maybe we could let them decide among themselves which of them to execute first. Make sure you think of something great for the execution concepts. I'd like to enjoy executions both old and new from east and west every day. The rules state that the method of execution is to follow Great Court regulations. Leave it to me, my master. I will most certainly prepare you a fascinating execution show. I expect quartering at the very least. Of course. I shall make a list of the highest forms of execution from countries across the world, from Europe to Asia, which were used by kingdoms east and west for nothing less than treason against the king. I'd like to propose an execution method myself. Pondering that will be the perfect way to relax on those sleepless nights. I'll come up with an idea and send you a letter soon. Certainly, my master. Then we'll use the Burncastle style execution for the grand finale. At the very, very end, when all of the illusions have been broken and Beato's system of magic has been completely crushed, I shall present you with the finest execution you desire. The execution of Beatrice. Thank you, Erika. Thanks to you, it seems I'll be able to forget the pain of my illness for a little while. You're just perfect. My peace, my double, and my precious daughter. Your words are too good for me, my master. Erika, I will give you honor and a reward.
Don't play that song.
Beato's greatest symbol, the portrait in the reception hall. Take it down, smash it to make firewood, bake a cake over that fire and eat it. Then you have my permission to put your own portrait up in the empty frame.
Oh, this hurts. Normally I would be jazzed about the new animations and stuff, but no, not in this case.
Thank you very much. It is the greatest of honors.
Yeah, she looks real cute in the picture. This is actually the cover of this arc, and there is a hand, like a bloody, dead-looking hand lying on the ground, just sort of sticking out from. Like, it looks like it could be attached to an arm, you know, but it definitely looks dead behind her in the picture. So, yay, looking really innocent. When the game was about to come out and people noticed that, they were like, oh, this is gonna be evil. And then it was announced that, yeah, I don't think it was super visible, just now. Because I think it's on the, like, under her chair. But yeah, then it was announced that she would be the detective character, and everyone was like, oh, that's smart. I mean, a murder happened. She's gonna detective it. And it was a lot of fun being on the internet back then, following all the theories and stuff. Anyway, that's a little fun fact for you there.
You will eradicate and erase Beatrice's name, and all traces of her. Until that is all finished, I order you to become the master of this sealed-off Rokanjima. By the name of the Witch of Miracles, Burncastle, I hereby grant you the rank of witch until that day arrives. From now on, you will call yourself Erika, Witch of Truth. Witch of Truth? Thank you very much, my master. I vow to work even harder so that this honor is not wasted.
Even though she was nothing more than a piece, she was being granted the honor of calling herself a witch like her master, if only for a brief stretch of time. Erika was so moved at having her hard work acknowledged in this greatest form that she trembled. Delano, continue to aid Erika.
and report on our progress to me. As you wish. By the way, where's Lambda? She is over there. From the guest seating on the second floor, she pointed downwards. Lambda Delta could be seen beneath Battler, who hung there, dead, run through by the red longsword. Lambda, what are you doing? Stop that. Yoshinomiya Battler, you're an interesting guy. You could have been so much more interesting. Such a shame. I think it was a wonderful way to die. Erica, you can hang Battler's corpse in the mansion's reception hall. The next time I come to visit this fragment, welcome me in front of it. Certainly, my master. I'll make that foolish man an eternal monument to your victory. Wrong character. That sounds wonderful. Super stylish. Maybe you can coat him with plaster and make a beautiful white statue. And it'd be even better if you just decorated him all cute. Yes, Lady Lambda Delta. I will strive to answer your expectations. Congrats on your witch promotion. Even though it's only temporary, I welcome you as a friend. Erica was so overcome with emotion that tears came to her eyes. Because no greater pleasure exists for a piece than having its efforts acknowledged by its master. In the end, I'd like to have Beato stuffed too, and I'll have her displayed on high in the reception hall. Lake Shirakaba? What does that mean? I'm writing this down so I can put an explanation on what that is in the VOD. Fun fact. Oh. The human hunting count. I mean, we can look up what that is right now. Because that'll be in the tip. Right? Lake Shirakaba is a reference to Onmoraki no Kizu, an award-winning 2003 novel by Kyogoku Natsuhiko. The human hunting count is a reference to Galaxy Express 999, which I still need to read. Assuming that is the novel I'm thinking of. I might be wrong about the name. So now you know, but I still don't quite get, yeah, I don't know at all. I'm gonna look that up, and I'll put it in the YouTube VOD, in the fun fact section. Because I've been adding a fun fact for every video. You know, I read that back when I wasn't a witch. I wondered, how can humans who obtain eternal life become so cruel? I always found that strange. At the time, I honestly couldn't relate. After becoming a witch and living 1,000 years, I fully understand it. Wait. What was that? No, it was Lambda. Okay. After becoming a witch and living 1,000 years, I fully understand it. That writer could understand our cruelty really well, in the truest sense. Where to next? I guess we'll go off in opposite directions like always. Only because I don't want to bore you. Thanks, Bern. But you can be sure that I'll count to 100 and then start searching for you again. You never let me get bored, do you? That's why I like you, love you. Let's meet again somewhere. Of course, that might be 100 or 1,000 years from now. or never again for all eternity. It'll work out. The Sea of Fragments is tiny to a pair who love each other. The third man. No, Children of Paradise, of course. If each time you smash one of those countless fragments that glitter like a starry night, you could escape the poison of just a single evening's worth of boredom. Even you would want to count the stars in the sky. What are you talking about? Ooh, not bad.
If I recall correctly, The Third Man is a novel by Agatha Christie. Unless it's The Fourth Man. Again, I'll look this up. I will elaborate in the fun facts section of the YouTube video. Twitch doesn't let me put those in the Twitch VODs, which sucks, but you know, I've gotta work with what we got. Yeah, they're a power couple, but they are weird. Which, I mean, fair enough. The witches known as Voyagers travel across the countless glittering futures of possibility and gobble them up, trying to escape their illness called boredom for as long as they can. The tiny, tiny fragment created by the human, known as Beatrice, had now been gobbled up by the two witches, and had lost its glitter. The two who had earlier called themselves rivals in front of Beato now stopped that charade and laughed together playfully.
Erika, the new ruler of this fragment, weave the truth and create the tale that leads up to this world's demise. The next with the sixth game, right? Yes, it's the sixth game. Decide the title for episode 6 yourself. After all, you're already the spinner of this tale, as well as its master. Thank you very much. Actually, I've already decided on one. Oh, already? Then let me hear it. What's the title? It is Episode 6. Actually, I'd like to tease you a bit, but I'll tell you. Come on, stop being a smartass and tell us. A newbie witch like you shouldn't be teasing your seniors. Episode 6, Checkmate of the Golden Witch.
And that's our tea party. Oh boy. But as you all know, there's another secret tea party after the tea party. That is not secret at all, but... let's fucking go. You feel like Erika's gonna meet the same fate as Beatrice at this rate? It could happen, I mean. She is a witch now, which means she can be denied. It's really interesting that her reward for, like, denying the witch is to become a witch. Oh. Hello, Pain. Welcome back. I'm gonna go drink some water. It's extra bad because I know it's coming up. Yeah, no, he's like... the sword points down. And they just left it there. That's fucked up. In the cathedral devoid of people, a figure could be seen still staring up at the heavens, its chest pierced with a long red sword which pinned it in place to the ground. It was the figure of Balor. So Valenor can make multiple swords with multiple bits of red truth. So she's not gonna need the sword again. It's just stuck there until they do something about it. Ironically, it looked just like what he had done to Beato with blue wedges in the fourth game. Balor had died quite some time ago. Now, in this place, the concept of death means nothing except that one has stopped thinking. And therefore, in a sense, Balor was not dead. After being defeated in a fight over the truth, he no longer had the strength to think of a way to resist. And so, he was dead. Valenor's massive longsword, which had been left in place of a tombstone, fastened Balor to the spot even after his death. This was being lit by a faint light seeping out of a high skylight. Quiet footsteps rang out across the still cathedral. From the darkness behind a pillar, a woman slowly stepped forwards. It was Beatrice. Her eyes had no light in them, and looked the same way they had for so long in the Golden Land, still muddied over with gray. Previously, she couldn't even drink black tea properly without assistance. But now, though it was slow, and though there was no life in her eyes, she was, surprisingly, walking. And with slow, deliberate steps, she reached Balor, who was still dead and pierced. Then, slowly, she touched him. She tugged on his sleeve. However, Balor showed no reaction. When she realized that it wasn't sleep, but death, the witch with the forlorn gaze drooped her head even lower. Then she quietly whispered, "You liar." Beato softly touched Balor. Then she pressed her forehead against Balor's chest. There was no longer any heartbeat. It wasn't just because he had surrendered. It was because the witches had banished him from the game board. So now, Balor would never return. So now, the Golden Witch, Beatrice, had no more reason to exist. Thank you, liar. Goodbye, and I'm sorry. Then, the Golden Witch, her task completed, scattered as a spray of gold. In the Golden Land, the grey rain gently continued to fall. There was a faint aroma of good black tea. Beato stared blankly at the surface of the tea. There was Virgilia, continuing her knitting, along with me and Lenore talking to each other. This is a flashback. A flashback to a memory of battlers, which Lenore's sword must have given him as it pierced him. A flashback of that time Lenore had come to visit the tea party in the Golden Land. The same goes for me. I will not be caught unawares in our next bout. Perfect. I'll take you on anytime. Give me everything you've got. You have my word. Everything I have. Lenore. I thought she was a ruthless killer doll without a heart. But maybe she actually is pretty approachable. Though, of course, neither of us will show any mercy when fighting on the game board. For a while, we gazed at the rain-drenched rose garden as we quietly enjoyed our tea. Still, it really is terrifying, the way you fight. Nox's 10 Commandments, or the Decalogue, wasn't it? Those fallbacks of the mystery genre, right? Yes, they are commandments conceived by my father. Hidden doors must not exist. That's Nox's 3rd commandment, right? That means there's no need for detectives to even look for hidden doors. Sounds pretty ridiculous. Berncastle talked about this. She said that even searching for hidden doors was a waste of time because they're forbidden by Nox's 3rd commandment. It makes me want to argue back and say it isn't so uncommon for a rich family's mansion to have a hidden door or two built into it. But apparently you can get away with that kind of rule in the mystery genre. As an aside, there exist many wonderful mysteries in which hidden doors appear, and where hidden doors are the theme. Though of course this is limited to novels which have the premise that hidden doors exist. Without that premise, hidden doors mustn't exist. So if that premise isn't there, there's no need to search for hidden doors. I think that's probably the essence of her ridiculous argument. I get the feeling that the detective trying to expose the truth and the illusion trying to mask it with fiction are getting blended together, leading to a bizarre form of argument similar to a devil's proof. Making a locked room murder seem to be accomplished by a witch with magic, that's fantasy. Exposing that it was a human's crime done with tricks, that's anti-fantasy. Investigating all possibilities to expose what those tricks are, that's mystery. But claiming that possibilities with no hints supporting them are unworthy of investigation, that's also mystery. Hidden doors, by definition, are hidden in a way that there can't be any clues. Would claiming that hidden doors therefore necessarily exist even if the detectives can't find them be anti-mystery? That's enough of that. This argument is too far of a digression from the riddles I'm actually supposed to be solving. My fight is very simple. I'm only fighting to explain that it was possible for a human to carry out these crimes which were supposedly carried out by a witch. This whole discussion about mystery and anti doesn't serve any purpose. so I can't bring myself to have any particular interest in the rules known as the Nox Decalogue. Do you dislike Nox? It doesn't work for me. There's something just wrong about making it possible to deny the existence of all hidden doors without investigating. It's about as dubious as the devil's proof. Even though it's supposed to be the exact opposite of fantasy, it somehow feels like it's the same kind of argument. I shouldn't have said that. Your dad was the one who made them, after all. Pay that no mind. After all, there are some who say they are nothing more than mindless fun. The Decalogue feels like something very arrogant to you, right, Ballerkin? To be honest, yeah. If there was ever a detective who said he didn't need to look for hidden doors because they must not exist, everyone should start looking around on the floor to see if some of his screws had come loose. In that case, Battler, let us say we did away with the third commandment. In that case, what would happen to locked room mysteries? What if Nox's third commandment, hidden doors are forbidden, didn't exist? You mean if hidden doors became okay to use as the solution to locked room mysteries? I do not mean hidden doors with hints of foreshadowing. Or foreshadowing. I mean hidden doors that even the detective cannot find because, of course, they are hidden. Ballerkin, you often fight by using a devil's proof to propose an undiscoverable element X. That's what this is about. That'd be horrible. Locked room mysteries would just unravel as stories. That was another way of saying that those kinds of stories would simply no longer work. No one would want to try solving the mystery in the first place if they knew the answer might just be an unforeseeable hidden door. If you aren't first given some guarantee that no hidden doors exist, you don't feel like trying to deduce anything. I see. Nox's third commandment is needed. Without it, locked room mysteries wouldn't even be worth anyone's time. If you don't feel like trying to deduce anything, what does that mean? It means you don't even feel like reading to begin with. That is correct. Humans are weak creatures who cannot even think unless they have assurance that reasoning is possible. That reasoning is possible. In other words, they need encouragement that they can solve it if they do their best. That might actually be true. It's the same with exercising. If you're told to run 10 laps around the campus, you can tough it out. But if you're made to run without even knowing how many laps it's going to be, you'll probably get tired out before you make it around 3 times. The same thing goes for thinking and reasoning. Depending on whether or not a problem is guaranteed to be solvable, the way we humans react to it changes completely. In detective novels, there's always a scene where the detective announces that he's discovered who the culprit is. That's a sign saying the hints have all been given in the previous parts of the story. So, dear readers, please try to reason it out. Huh. I always thought it was just a classic line. Never knew it had that meaning. To put it harshly, as long as the detective doesn't say that, even the most avid mystery lover, who prides himself on his deductions, won't feel like trying to solve it. In the previous games, you were like that yourself, were you not? Come to mention it, maybe that really was the case. My fight against Beato began in earnest starting with the second game, I think. When Beato threw locked room mysteries at me, at first, I didn't seriously try to tackle them. After all, I knew nothing except that people had died in a locked room and the windows and doors were all locked from the inside. basically no hints. So I refused to debate, on the grounds that I couldn't fight because the lack of clues made reasoning impossible. After that, Beato sneered at me, didn't she? Asking whether I would repeat that over and over forever in an endless repetition of moves. At that time, Beato said this: "The reason you incompetent fools always stop thinking and then moan about it is a lack of information. If you are then given information, you start doubting whether the information is true or not by denying the basis. Aren't those convenient? What clever little words to hide your own incompetence." Then, she said she'd give me reliable information that couldn't be denied, and created the rule called the Red Truth. Only after Beato had done all that for me did the curtain finally rise on my battle with her. So, once I finally had the guarantee that I could solve this tale if I tried, that's when I stepped into the ring with her for the first time. Beatrice. She is a strange person. Mysteries are the only spaces where witches can live, yet she herself began to give you the Red Truth, a method by which those mysteries could be solved. You could say that the Red Truth is a hint Beato gives me so that I'll agree to compete in this war of reasoning. It's a carrot. Being given a hint is like she's saying, "Go on, try solving it. It is possible." An enigma which is guaranteed to be solvable can't be called a true enigma. Isn't this almost as though Beato herself is admitting that she isn't really a witch? Well now, that does seem logical. She truly is a strange child. Beato gave no answer. With grey eyes, she did nothing but blankly gaze at the steam rising from her black tea. My father created the Decalogue to act as a crutch for the power of thinking. It most certainly was not created to arrogantly insist on the way things must be. A crutch. The power of thinking. Yes, Nox's 8th. It is forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. This does not only mean that one must avoid making baseless guesses that are not supported by clues. If you turn it around, it means that the one posing the mystery must present clues which lead to the solution. So in other words, if a story follows the Decalogue, all riddles must have hints, and therefore, it's guaranteed that finding the solution is possible. I see. So this is what she means by a crutch for the power of thinking. If you can believe that it's solvable, you start feeling the desire to have a go at those riddles. If you're capable of believing that those hints do exist, you get fired up about rereading the story to search for them. It's true, you do. I'll admit, it might have the power of giving courage to people trying to solve it. The Nox Decalogue is often thought of as a series of restrictions imposed by the one who made the mystery, but it is also vital for the readers. By using the Decalogue as a crutch, we are given the courage needed to use reasoning, as well as the willpower to reread the tale several times, in search of the clues we know must be hidden there. It's like the lid of a jar of jam which is too tight and won't open. Like Mom always used to say, if you think you can't open it, then it really won't open no matter how hard you try. The same thing happens in sports. They say that whether or not you have a strong image of yourself and believe you can win no matter what, has a large impact on the records you set. In that case, the Nox Decalogue isn't really a set of arrogant and strict restrictions. You can also see it as a way to encourage readers who are trying to solve the mystery, by telling them to give it their all since it's definitely solvable. That's an interesting way to interpret it. But I've heard that not every detective novel in the world necessarily follows the Decalogue. If you run into one of those, wouldn't you feel betrayed? Even the Decalogue is nothing more than a single interpretation, and it does not apply to all mystery stories. Though among fundamentalists of my father's work, it seems there are those who harshly criticize works which violate the Decalogue and call them heresy. There's no end of arguments like this in the mystery world. Is this or that famous detective novel a fair mystery? In other words, one that follows Nox's 10 Commandments? That sort of argument is already an eternal theme of the mystery world. In fact, in mystery discussions, arguments like these sometimes become more heated than talk about the actual solutions. I can understand the criticism. You try your best to solve a mystery, trusting that it follows the Decalogue and can be solved, but then it turns out that it was never made to be solvable in the first place. I can understand how irritating that must be. That's right. When fighting with the Decalogue, there's just one thing you want guaranteed from the beginning. And that is the guarantee that the detective novel will adhere to the Decalogue. If a work labels itself as an orthodox mystery, then you have nothing to worry about. However, the mystery genre contains many unorthodox subgenres within it. Does that mean that trying to use reasoning in an unorthodox detective novel is a complete waste of time? Looking at it that way, it really does feel arrogant. Yes. I also find it extremely sad that my father's Decalogue has been used as such an elitist weapon. So, you just fought Beato using the Decalogue as a weapon. Can I take that as proof that this game world of Beato's follows the Nox Decalogue? When I asked that, there was a strange silence. Virgilia, Delenor, and of course, Beato all remained silent for a while. Almost as though my question had touched at the core of something. That is something I cannot answer myself. Why? This is a game that this child made. A game to determine a winner between you and her. She called it a confrontation between mystery and fantasy. But, unfortunately, she has never called it an orthodox mystery. That means you have no guarantee that it follows the Decalogue. But at the same time, Miss Beatrice has said that this game is a contest between you and her. That means there is room for you to achieve victory. In other words, you're trying to say that it's possible to deduce the solution. If you asked her that question, she would probably say that it is. However, just as she is the challenger and you are the challenged, the two of you are different creatures. Something Beato might have proposed thinking it is solvable may or may not be something that is solvable for you as well. For example, let's say we pose a simple riddle that any Japanese person would be familiar with. However, if the person we're telling this riddle to is a foreigner with a Japanese-English dictionary in their hand, it might be almost impossible to solve. In other words, it's possible to have a one-sided solvable problem, which might be easy for the questioner, but extremely difficult for the person trying to solve it. By the way, do you know of the foreign riddle, why do dragons sleep all day? The answer is, because they fight nights. It's a riddle from the English realm, so it might be a little tough for a Japanese person. For that reason, I cannot promise that this tale is something you will definitely be able to solve. However, I can promise you one thing. I will guarantee it with the red truth. What? Beato wanted you to solve it, so she created this game, and the riddles of this tale, to be solvable. That alone I will guarantee with the red truth. It was the one guarantee that all those who try to use reasoning desire. I do not know whether the answer can be derived by following the decalogue my father created. However, if you run into a tight spot and want a compass for your reasoning, please try using my decalogue if you remember. It might give you renewed courage and possibly even some new discovery. Thank you. If I'm truly stuck, I'll think about your fighting style. Are you sure it's alright to help out an enemy like this? Pay that no mind. I came to this tea party without a gift. I hope you enjoy this in place of a snack. And if you come face to face with me again, there will probably be no time to speak of something so casually. Nox's Decalogue and Virgilia's Red Truth. Beato wanted me to solve the riddles of this game, so she created them to be solvable. In other words, Beato thinks I can solve it. Isn't that proof that it's possible to apply logic to this? Of course, that's from Beato's point of view, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it'll be possible for me to work it out. But compared to before now, when I didn't even know whether applying reasoning was possible or impossible, that one sentence might give me a great deal of courage and strength. At least it has the power to silence any negative thoughts about it just being useless anyway. Unless the other party assures you that it's possible to deduce the answer, you won't try. It's almost like love between shy young people. Love? Yes. Unless the other person first proves that they love you, you don't want to love them, right? Both boys and girls want to hear someone say "I love you" to them first without being prompted. That's the dream. They don't want to love another person until they're sure that that person will love them back. After all, there's nothing as painful as a one-sided love. The emotional scars of a love that doesn't work out last a long time. Because they're afraid of that pain. More than anything else, they want assurance that the other person will love them back. I see. That is an interesting way to explain the relationship between writer and reader in a detective novel. Yes, maybe you could liken detective novels to that. Both the writer and the reader first want the other party to tell them, "I will solve it," or "it can be solved." Until the writer is assured that readers will definitely attempt to solve their story, they don't want to write it. The same goes for the readers. Until they are assured that they will definitely be able to solve the story if they try, they don't want to read it. Because they don't want to write what they consider a masterpiece and be hurt when no one reads it. Because they don't want to apply logic to what they consider a masterpiece and be hurt when they realized that it was all useless. For that argument, it really isn't a stretch to say that it's like love between shy elementary or middle school aged kids. Even though they are interested, they don't have the courage to reveal their feelings. So they wait uncomfortably for the other person to confess, and by the time summer ends, nothing's happened. Sometimes they'll even hook up with a different person. That's what my first love was like. Along with these one-sided feelings they can't express, they lament the passage of a summer which will never come again. The days of their youth end. The writer who wouldn't write until he gained the support of the readers goes for all eternity without releasing his maiden work. The reader who waited for the writer's rise to fame goes their whole life without knowing the joy of the mystery genre. Naku, when does the chicken or the egg type of shy love, reach the level where it progresses into mutual love? Well, it's probably gradual over time. It starts as a relationship between friends, they communicate with each other more, and they start thinking, I like this person and I think they like me. And when both of them reach the stage where they're no longer in doubt, then, well, I guess they probably just naturally become a couple. The impression I've gotten so far is that relationships which start with a sudden confession of love tend to break up more often. Whereas couples who never actually confess to each other but realize that they've always been together usually stay together for a surprisingly long time. In other words, it happens when a relationship of trust forms where each person trusts the other, is what you are saying. Yeah, maybe. I'm surprised. I always thought mysteries were a battle between the writer and the reader, but maybe they actually aren't. Yes. They can only exist if there is mutual trust, a relationship with love. Then you're saying that me and her aren't in a battle to the death, but a loving relationship? Though it doesn't look like anything more than a pair of elementary schoolers bullying each other to me. Virgilia joked at us in a middle-aged woman sort of way. Still, though I'm not expecting friendship or a trusting relationship, I can accept her as a rival. Beato is fighting at full force, trying to make me acknowledge that she's a witch. And I'm responding to that by going all out, trying to deny that witches exist. You say that Miss Beato is fighting at full force. How can you be so sure of that? I mean, you can tell by looking, can't you? It is not as though she has proclaimed in red that she was fighting you at full force. And yet you have no doubt. You are the one who said you would not believe anything except the red truth. This must be the stage where communication increases and you learn not to doubt your relationship, as you mentioned earlier. Virgilia and Delenor giggled together. One guy, multiple women. The topic is love. Wait a sec. Isn't this the worst formation for getting made fun of? I tried a couple of times to change the subject, and clumsily brought up more refined topics in an attempt to return the mood to something more suitable for a tea party in the rainy Golden Land. But each time, Virgilia saw right through me and laughed at me. Even amidst this, Beato kept looking downwards with those gray eyes. staring into her black tea. Yeah, that's right. Jillian and Lenore gave me so many hints back then. And yet I barely thought about them at all. It's way too late now, but let me think. Now that it's too late to change anything and I have an endless amount of time on my hands, let me think. One more time, let me think about the red truth Virgilia gave me, and the crutch called the Decalogue that Lanor lent me. With the red truth, Virgilia guaranteed that at the very least, Beato left enough room in this tale for me to achieve victory. That red truth guarantee will give me the power to start my heart beating once again. And there's the crutch of the Decalogue, which Lanor lent me. Even she began by warning me that the Decalogue isn't so almighty that it can solve all riddles. But even so, she kind of described it as a method to solve, no, to take on riddles. Let me try it. Even though there's no guarantee whether this tale is a mystery or fantasy, let me believe that I'll definitely be able to solve it. That this is a solvable tale, a mystery, and let me make one last attempt. When I came to, I was suddenly in that strange tea room where I'd often argued furiously with Beato across the table. Of course, Beato was nowhere to be found. It was just me, isolated and alone. That's alright. Even so, I won't stop thinking. Okay then. What were Nox's commandments again? I'm sure Lanor explained most of them when slamming me with them. Of course, even I recall them vaguely. What was the first one again? I beg to inform you of the following. Nox's first. It is forbidden for the culprit to be anyone not mentioned in the early part of the story. When I muttered about what the first one was, Lanor's subordinate appeared, as if in answer to my question. Without bothering with an unnecessary hello, she told me nothing more or less than what I wanted to know. Yeah, that's it. The first commandment. The culprit has to be one of the people mentioned in the early part of the story. Does that mean that by the end of the first game, the culprit must have appeared already? True, that is the most basic of basics in the mystery genre. A given. A given. Have I really kept that as a basic assumption? With each new game, the number of people in this tale keeps increasing. That violates the closed circle rule. From that moment onwards, everything is screwed up. Did I give up on the inside, thinking that the true culprit or mastermind must not have shown up yet, and that reasoning was therefore useless? If I read this tale as a fantasy, new characters keep showing up to the point where even having demon kings or gods or divine creators appear wouldn't be strange at all. Even if the true mastermind first appeared in one of the last episodes, I just accepted that kind of story. However, if I read it as a mystery and stick with that conviction, then there's no need to worry at all about anyone who shows up later. Because Nox's first clearly rules them out, stating that it's impossible for the culprit to be anyone who appears later on in the story. Of course, there's also what both Lenore and Virgilia said. There's no guarantee that this tale follows the rules of the Decalogue. So of course, I can't deny the possibility that the culprit first appeared in the second game or later. However, this is one way of thinking. This time, I'll forget about the Devil's Proof completely and try to borrow the power of the Decalogue in my thinking. Yeah, our boy is learning. After all, I know by now that I'll never be able to reach the truth without looking from multiple perspectives. In that case, that means the culprit in all of these repeating games is one of the 18 people. From the very beginning, there was no need for an illusion of a 19th person. Even the first of Nox's commandments denies the existence of an unknown person known as the Witch from the very start. If I had followed that in the truest sense, I might not have suffered so miserably in the second game. Nox's second.
I beg to inform you of the following. Nox's second. It is forbidden for supernatural agencies to be employed as a detective technique.
The Lenore's other subordinate appeared without a sound and gave me an answer to my question. That's right. A detective can't go around using magic. So, if this is a fair battle, does that mean that, like the detective, the culprit also isn't allowed to use magic?
I beg to inform you of the following. Know that the interpretation is up to you.
Figures. Right. Then I'll interpret it my way. If this game is a fair battle between me and Beato, then because this tale is solvable, it features no elements which are impossible to explain with logic. In other words, magic cannot, must not exist. When it does appear, I shouldn't suspect that the mystery element is breaking down, but I should instead question why it was shown and suspect the witnesses and observers. That's right, that was Beato's greatest weapon in the second game. Depictions of magic that have no place in a mystery. By showing me that, she forced me to think that this tale wasn't a mystery, and therefore, that reasoning was impossible, and I surrendered. However, if I'd believed unshakably that it was a mystery, it would have been completely obvious to doubt the witnesses who claimed to have seen those things. Also, at the end of the first game, it was revealed that this tale had been passed on to people in the future by means of a message bottle. Someone wrote down the incident in the form of a story. In other words, this entire story is a world which includes the personal opinions of an observer, namely the person who wrote that message in a bottle. In other words, the observer isn't God. It's a human. Therefore, there's no guarantee that the descriptions are truly impartial. By the end of the first game, it had already been made clear that the text violated a constant premise of mystery stories, that they must be told from a God's eye view. For that reason, it's possible to doubt not just the witnesses, but the observer as well. If I could have doubted this much, then no matter how seemingly unsolvable displays of magic appeared, I wouldn't have had to blindly accept them and give up. However, that raised the question, is it even possible to solve a story written by an observer who isn't impartial? All reasoning ends here if you get obsessed with this. That's why it's so important for me to believe that Beato is trying to fight me through this tale. Because it's a fight that means I've been given a chance of winning. The fact that I've been given that must mean that reasoning is possible. This part is the hardest. Unless I believe that the cruel witch took on the risk of losing to try and have a fair fight with me, I can't get past this part. Virgilia's right. It's just like love. If I can't believe that Beato is fighting me head on with everything she's got, I won't be able to reason any further than this. Alright, I'll admit it. Unless I admit that we're in love, I won't be able to get any further. When Virgilia ran out of patience with the two of us, shy and incapable as we were of admitting that out loud, she gave me that red truth instead. That was the red truth saying, Beato wanted me to solve the riddles of this game, so she created them to be solvable. What the hell is that? It's like Sato-san in Class A says he likes you. Like hearing a love confession via a friend. I really am pitiful. Reasoning is love. If we don't love each other, the logic won't open up. In that case, why can't we just say that we love each other? If you think you can solve it, just you try. You're incompetent. Like hell you can solve it. Yeah. According to George Aniki, we call that sort of thing tsundora. That's, tsundere, but okay, battler. For those not in the know, that describes a character who is like, you know, kind of huffy and annoyed, or like in denial on the outside, but like soft and sweet on the inside, because they're trying to hide how much they like a person usually. So that brutal witch is finally starting to look a bit cute. If I meet her again, I want to try saying, "You're such a tsundora." If I meet her again, somewhere. Tell me the other parts of the Decalogue. I don't care about the order. Give me something that seems useful. I beg to inform you of the following. Nox's 8th. It is forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. I beg to inform you of the following. Nox's 6th. It is forbidden for accident or unaccountable intuition to be employed as a detective technique. It must not be solved with clues that aren't presented. And it must not be solved by luck. If this tale is made to be solvable, then we can read this the opposite way. In other words, clues must have been prepared so that the tale can be solved. And it has to have been made in a way that it can be solved without relying on luck. If I can believe strongly that Beato is challenging me to a fair game where reasoning is possible, I can be sure of that. That must mean that Beato has already concealed clues, hints, and messages within the tale so far. It isn't from the Decalogue, but Erika or someone said this. There are 3 riddles to be exposed in a mystery. That's tsundora is a thing? I did not know that. I thought it was just a mistake, because you can also pronounce tundra as tsundora, I think, or something comparable in Japanese, because I know that's like a... There was a thing I watched that had that pun in it. Yeah. That's cool. I learned something today. Thank you for looking it up. And that does really fit her super well, so that's, yeah. That's great. Of the 3 riddles, 1 is the whodunit. Who was the culprit? 1 is the howdunit. How did they commit the crime? 1 is the whydunit. Why did they commit the crime? All of this means that clues related to these 3 riddles are already present inside this tale. Now, strictly speaking, it's like this. Beato scattered hints about because she wanted me to solve those 3 riddles. Though whether I'm capable of catching those hints or not is another matter. Even if you pose a riddle thinking it's easy, it might be difficult for the person trying to solve it. Therefore, it's only natural for there to be a difference in how difficult each person thinks it is. That's for all you people in the chat going like, I'm too smooth-brained for this. It's okay. That's why. As Beato went through each successive game, she watched me closely and tweaked the game as needed to get a good arrangement. When Beato realized that I'd completely surrendered in the second game because it was too hard, she secretly worried. If I surrendered and lost the will to fight, the game would no longer remain on an even footing. Therefore, in order to make me regain my will to fight, from the 3rd game onwards, she set things up in a way that made it easier for me, giving me tips on how to fight and a few hints. The appearance of Virgilia and Aronoville was obviously so that they could help me. Also, though we still had the usual crazy magic shows, she gave me the metaphor of the brown tube trial, as well as tips on how to fight back. I finally understood how to fight, and at the end of the 4th game, Beato managed to have the all-out showdown with me that she had probably wanted most of all. Then, Beato acknowledged that my abilities had become full-fledged, and entrusted me with her heart. Entrusted me with explaining this tale, didn't she? In that case, it was really dumb of me to boycott most of the 5th game, just because I was so disgusted with those 2 witches. It doesn't matter who the game master is. All I need is to search for the truth in Beato's game. On the contrary, I should probably thank those 2 witches just a little. We're continuing the game in Beato's place now that she's gone and left everything to me. Of course, I doubt those evil witches were trying to do anything of the sort. Culprit. Crime. Motive. The answers, the hints, to those 3 ultimate riddles must be scattered throughout the tale shown so far. It's probably a very faint light, like trying to find beads that have fallen onto a sandy beach. They're definitely there. However, they're so faint that unless I believe strongly, there's no way I'll be able to find them. For your attention, I beg to state the following. What is it? Go back through the tale. Know that you have now been given eyes that will not miss the truth's faint light. Now's the time to go back. Be advised that for reasoning to be possible, a trusting relationship is required. Yeah, I know. In fact, I might have just realized at last. It's something that has been repeated over and over again throughout the tale. Persistently so. Without love, the truth cannot be seen. Slowly, the tea room dissolved into darkness. Then, as though I was slowly sinking into a pitch-black sea, I passed through the cracks of the long journey I'd taken with Beato, and kept on falling and falling. It was a bizarre experience, like crossing over the boundary of sleep while still conscious. The several tales that had come before became faint bubbles, perhaps small shining fragments that were scattered like stars in a pitch-black sky. I kept sinking on and on into that sea. The tales up until now, one after another. After another. Virgilius guided Dante to Mount Purgatory and led him to Beatrice, the eternal lady who waited at the top. Therefore, the innermost depths lay not at the bottom, but at the peak of Mount Purgatory. The eternal lady had been waiting there for Dante the whole time. And then I knew. I finally reached the truth. In the depths. No, at the peak of Mount Purgatory. Idiot. You really are an idiot. It hurts. He woke from the sleep of death, and bit by bit, his sense of pain came back to him. As Balor hung there, pierced by the longsword, his head still tilted towards the heavens, life gradually returned to his face through an expression of suffering. You really are an idiot. A huge idiot. Ballard noticed. The whole time, Beata had been snuggling up against him, sleeping. And when he held her, he found that it was not Beata, but her crumbling remains. And because her form was as fragile as ash, and Ballard tried to hold it, just like a sandcastle made on a beach, being washed away by a small wave, it fell apart and lost its form. Oh no, I have the wrong thing. Yeah. At Balor's feet lay nothing but the ragged remnants of Beato's dress and a pile of ash. No, on top of that pile of ash, he could see something sparkling gold. It was the husk of a single gold butterfly, which had been torn to bits. And so, Balor knew. I did reach the truth. But I wasn't able to do it while Beato still remained in this world. Beato, you really are an idiot. I finally reached the truth of this ridiculous riddle you created. Just like you wanted. I didn't lose heart, and I finally made it all the way to the end. So why did you lose heart without waiting for me? You believed so strongly, didn't you? That I definitely reached the truth. So why? Why couldn't you believe with me and wait? It wasn't you who was forcing an endless torture on someone. It was me. I've been the one putting you through a cruel torture. You resisted until the very end and kept on appealing to me. And now, even though I finally reached the truth, you couldn't wait any longer. It's all too late. You idiot. Why did you give in before me? It's my fault. I forced her to endure this torture. In fact, I made she endured it for so long. She kept on appealing to me over and over and over again. And because I was so incompetent, couldn't even begin to understand the truth. Idiot. Idiot. Your riddles were too damn twisted. Why couldn't you say it? Say it more simply. You fool. A scream of pain filled this cathedral of sorrow. The sad witch who wasn't able to let Balor know of the truth. The sad man who wasn't able to understand the witch's truth. Balor howled in anger and sadness for both of them. The clock hung in the cathedral showed that it was midnight on October 5th, 1986. Time was up for everything. If you're going to create a riddle as hard as this and be so proud of it, don't go and set a goddamn time limit on it. No. I understand. Even though there was such a faint chance of that miracle happening. You prayed for it to happen. Just like grandfather. You prayed for and bet on the power of a miracle. One so unlikely that it was totally impossible. Less likely than finding a bead you dropped on a sandy beach. And because you did, I have now arrived at that miracle. But your time didn't last long enough. If I had reached this point even a little sooner, if I could have seen the truth, even if it had been right before time was up, I might have been able to save you. But now I've been run through pathetically, and I can't even hold what remains of you. I struggled, attempting to pull the longsword out, or at least touch her remains by stretching out my arms, but neither worked. Damn it. At that time, I noticed a golden glint on the palm of my hand. There was a single wing from a gold butterfly. That small fragment of gold was the only piece of Beodome that I was permitted to touch. I cried with all my strength, gripped that fragment, and pressed it against my head, apologizing. Why couldn't I reach the truth earlier? And then I pressed it to my chest, promising that even though things had come to this, I would never again lose the truth. When I pressed my hand against my chest, the sword piercing my chest cut my wrist and blood dribbled out. That blood spread throughout my fist, and it must have soaked that gold fragment with my red blood. It must have been the only way of telling her that I'd found the truth she had wanted to tell me. I clutched the wing of the gold butterfly with my freshly bleeding hand and pressed it against the red sword that impaled me. At this moment, Yoshinomiya Battler knew and understood. He had arrived at the entirety of this tale. At that moment, it seemed as though a faint golden light leaked out of the gaps in his clenched fist. The two witches had their backs turned, and Erica was laughing at Battler's corpse. Ugh. Okay, I'm gonna need to hold on. I need a minute before I voice this horrible, horrible character that I don't want to voice right now. Because she sucks. I'm gonna drink some water. Thank you for the safe reminder. Thank you for doing me a safe reminder. You know how I said bring tissues? I didn't. So I'm gonna be right back. Alright, I'm back. What? Yeah, so free butterfly for you there, because I can't, when I change scenes, that's just what happens. I haven't figured out how to make that not happen, but that's okay. Oh boy. Yeah, that was rough. So the fun part... it, honestly, they argue like an old married couple, so that's what tipped me off when I first played this. I have a soft spot for tsunderes also, so I know how they work. The fun part there is when they say, "Hey Balor, if you go back through everything, you can work it out." If you were to like drop the game and do that, well, based on like the hints that they do give you after that, yeah, you can totally figure it out. I didn't do that at the time. I was mostly along for the ride. I didn't really think. But this game kind of changed my attitude towards mystery and stuff. This really is what got me into the genre a lot more than I enjoyed it before. Yeah, I was really invested in the story to the point where I didn't want anyone to be the culprit, basically. Oh, oops. Wait, did I just... Uh-oh. Give me 1 second to fix something real quick. Don't worry, I'll be back. Okay, that should do it. Yes, I have disappeared, but I will, Yes. That's the sound it makes when I, you know, turn into vapor and fly away. Like a mouse clicking. I had to fix an expression thing because I keep accidentally turning one on that I don't want on all the time, so... You know how it be. Streamer life. Alright. I wish it was the blush, but yes, I also do that. I'm keeping that as is. I'll just blush every time I take a sip of whatever. But no, it was, the blank eyes, which very inappropriate for like emotional scenes, so, you know. Just turn that off real quick. Okay, time to channel the terrible blue-haired detective girl.
What a disgrace you are, Balor-san. Your foolishness will be immortalized in this statue. Huh?
Aw, cat, thank you. That actually makes me really happy to hear. I appreciate that. Just then, Balor's chest. No. The red longsword impaling Balor began to shine gold from deep within his chest. Oh my god. That bright golden light began to change the red sword's color, turning it gold. What's going on?
Balor is... What? What is this?
Balor coughed up blood and groaned. His consciousness came back. His will to live, his will to fight, came back. The red longsword impaling Balor could no longer be described as such. By now, it had become a golden longsword. Then, slowly, it pulled itself out of Balor's chest. After it had finally pulled itself out of Balor completely, it flipped through the air and stuck upright into the ground in front of Balor's eyes, as though it knew who its master was. Balor, crawling on the floor and moaning, grabbed the golden longsword, and though it looked painful, he slowly rose to his feet once again.
This sure is an elaborate act. Is this one of your tricks, Lambda? That glow. It can't be.
Lambda stared wide-eyed at that bright golden glow in awe. Noticing that Balor's resurrection wasn't part of a script Lambda had thought up, Byrne also frowned slightly.
Sorry, retrials will not be permitted. Chester sisters, eliminate this resurrection illusion. Understood, ma'am. 45, 410, firing permission granted. It's unable to target. IFF error, code 999. Whoa.
3 9s? Impossible. The Chester sisters hesitated, unable to carry out Burncastle's orders.
Lambda, what kind of farce is this? The witch illusions have been completely destroyed, and the trial ended with our victory. Sorry, Vern. You'll have to stick around a while longer. Isn't that right, Ushinomiya Battler?
Yeah. Sorry to keep you waiting, Erika. Burncastle. Now it's time for my truth.
I accept your request for a retrial. The Coven retracts the adjournment of the Court of Illusions.
Objection. The trial has already been concluded and the verdict has been announced.
Objection overruled. All verdicts are overshadowed by new truths.
Objection. Not only has Battler been banished as a player, he also doesn't hold the rank of witch. He has no right to appeal.
Objection overruled. The thing is, he does now have that. I acknowledge it by the name of the Witch of Certainty, Lambda Delta. Ushinomiya Battler, I acknowledge you as the new Golden Witch. No, as the new Endless Sorcerer, Ushinomiya Battler.
What did you say? But Battler got the rank of a witch. The rank of a witch, which she had desired for so long, had been granted to Battler so quickly. And on top of that, this wasn't anything temporary. This was an official, proper authorization by Lambda Delta. Erika couldn't accept it, and her face turned bright red.
Looks like that kid's game really will keep us entertained until the very end. Sure, I'll play along. Erika, accept his challenge. The red truth you've created with me is perfect. The construction of truth which makes Natsuhiko the culprit is perfect. Battler will never be able to break it. Of course, my master. There's no need to worry at all. Anyway, Chester sisters, my master ordered you to fire. How long is it going to take you to carry out that order out? Error code 999. An access code is required to target the Territory Lord. Yeah. I told you he'd do it, yeah. Territory Lord? Who is? Who controls this fragment? I do.
Territory Lord. You don't mean...
Yes.
Ushinomiya Battler has been authorized as the official Territory Lord of this fragment, ma'am.
Yes, that's right. You still don't understand. You don't know what that golden glow signifies. Battler has reached it. He's made his way to the innermost depth of all truths. That means Balor's understood everything about this world, this tale, this game. In other words, he's reached the position of the game's ruler. I'll bet you don't want to believe it, right, Vern? No, I don't want to believe it for a second. Alright, I'll test Balor to see whether he really understands everything. Erika. Too bad, Erika. I know you were excited to be appointed as the Territory Lord of this fragment, but I'm stripping you of that title. The new Territory Lord of this fragment is Ushinomiya Battler. Is it awful? Tell me, don't you just feel awful? How's it feel to have that title ripped away from you when you've finally gotten it? How's it feel? Battler? You think you can disprove my theory? I'd like to see you try. It can't be done. It can't. 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 The theory I've created has no holes.
It has so many holes, girl. You don't even... It is leaky.
It's impossible to rule out Natsuhiko as the culprit.
I can construct a theory with someone other than Aunt Natsuhiko as the culprit. It may be that your truth is impossible to disprove. If so, that means your truth won't be able to deny my new truth either. Valor spoke with the red truth, allowed him by his status as a sorcerer.
A culprit other than Natsuhiko? And how? Delanor, please entertain Valor-san's delusional rambling.
Slowly, Delanor stepped forwards. In her hand was the red longsword of the Decalogue. She also had a blue short sword. In Balor's hand was the golden longsword. The two rivals once again, now, for the first time, they truly confronted each other.
Battler,
I have been waiting. Sorry to keep you. Not at all. Your return was sooner than I anticipated.
kill him! Delanor Nox!
Delanor's form disappeared in an instant, as though her slow, dignified movements from before were only a lie. The trail drawn by the longsword of red truth burned itself into the retinas of those who saw it. Before anyone had enough time to follow that trail, it was already approaching Balor's chest. Lady Erika's reasoning has solved the fifth game. No new facts exist to overturn this logically derived truth. Ooh. It's possible to present a different truth using a different interpretation. When multiple truths exist in parallel, the authenticity of both is questioned. In this closed-off world, it's possible for differing truths to exist at the same time. Furthermore, as long as multiple truths exist, it's impossible to claim that any of the truths are the single truth. In other words, even if I can't overturn Erika's reasoning, by questioning its credibility and conquering it, I can defeat it.
Burns' reasoning is perfect. You won't be able to overturn it easily. But still, if you can't present a theory on par with Burns, the fight will come down to a verdict. That means it's possible that either one of the truths will be defeated and denied.
This plot twist is truly laughable. I'd expect nothing less from a demon script. Then let me ask, if not Natsuhi, who do you theorize is the culprit? Balor's golden longsword drew both red and blue trails at will. It's possible to construct a theory in which this was the revenge of the baby from 19 years ago mentioned by Aunt Natsuhi in her confession. Nox says, first, it is forbidden for the culprit to be anyone not mentioned in the early part of the story. A person first introduced in the 5th game cannot be named as the culprit. What if the baby from 19 years ago was among us since the very beginning? For example, what if it was me? Damn cat. Good timing. Nox's 8th. It is forbidden for the case to be resolved with clues that are not presented. Was there ever any foreshadowing showing that you might be the baby from 19 years ago? The red truth from the 4th game that I am not the son of my mother, Azumi. The feeling that Dad was hiding something about the 1st game and this game. In particular, in this game, it was made clear that there were some special circumstances having to do with my birth. Balor proposed that he might be the baby from 19 years ago, and announced that he would reconstruct the crime with himself as the culprit. As Delano cautiously held her sword at the ready, she gauged the distance between them. Now that Balor had inherited the position of this world's territory lord, and even attained the rank of Endless Sorcerer, his movements surpassed human understanding. By now, the physical distance between them probably counted for nothing, because their extremely agile battle was surpassing the point where the concept of distance made any difference. What? Oh. I think I phrased that entire sentence wrong. A good start. Let us hear your theory with Balor as the culprit. Yeah, I'll let you hear it. I'll prove that this explanation also works. That you can't be certain Aunt Natsuhi is the culprit.
Good. If you're supposed to be the culprit, that creates several contradictions. I'll use those contradictions to reap your feeble truth. I, Fururo Erika, the detective and the witch of truth.
This time, Erika stepped forward. In her hand, there appeared a scythe like one a Grim Reaper might hold. A ruthless scythe for reaping everything that threatened her theory. Excuse me, I'm just vibing real quick. Oh shit. Okay, we are pretty far from the end. I thought I would be able to like wrap it up this time. but it is almost 1:30 a.m. So I think this is a good cliffhanger. And then, depending on how long the last bit takes, and I want to do a little wrap up. Thank you for the same reminder. Maybe we can start 6 next week. But no promises on that. It depends on how long this next bit takes, and if I'm remembering correctly, there's still like a good hour or so to go. So, yeah. What an episode. What? I'm just gonna hop us out of there. An hour is gonna go fast, yeah. It's well, an hour plus like a little ramble afterwards, and you know, maybe it'll take a little longer. So I guess we'll see. We'll see if next time we can actually get on with it and hop on the episode 6 train. Oh boy. I'm tired. That was draining. It was elucidating, yes, but also pain. That entire bit is more painful when you know everything. Cat asking the real questions. Who is Balor's true mom? I already know, but I won't say anything. The hints are there for like how Balor is gonna like deal with this entire line of reasoning. So you know, keep thinking, I guess. But also like, yeah, it's solvable, but nobody ever said that it's an easy mystery to solve. There are hints. There are so many hints. But they are subtle, or you know, covered in a layer of fantasy. And oh my god, if it was Kumasawa. I won't say anything. I won't say anything at all. I was very mad at her this episode though for throwing Natsuhiko under the bus, but she is a piece. But pieces can't really act outside of their like range. So she's capable of doing that. Yeah, I was mad. Gosh, okay. Yeah. Alright. Yeah, I really recommend, if you have the time to just play the game if you haven't yet, replay it if you have, because it totally changes your perspective on it. And there's just a lot hidden in there. And if you really go over it again, you're gonna see things in a different context, and it's gonna take on a different meaning, and that will absolutely help you find out what really happened. Bonus, they're not gonna explain to us like, oh, this is what happened, and then this person said this, and they're not gonna do that just yet. They never really fully, like, they never like clinically lay it out. I think it's a fair state. Yeah, I can say that. So you never get like a list of this incident happened through this and this and this like, you don't get like a full deconstruction of it, I guess. Is that the word? Reconstruction. Yeah. Reconstruction is the word. They do tell you enough later on. but not in episode 6. So you have time to go back and do some thinking. And I didn't at the time. I regret that to this day. But even if you can't figure it out, even if you don't have the time, it's a very good ride to be on. You could just sit back and just take it all in. That's totally okay too. Yeah. There's no harm in deciding like this is too difficult for me or I'm not up for this. That's fine. And also keep in mind that there's different interpretations. I've been reading stuff written by someone who really loves Ava and really loves Rosa, and I'm over here like, well, I think they're great, but they are very flawed people. But that's their interpretation, and I have mine. But we'll get into all that kind of stuff much later, further down the line. I mean, Ava's pretty cool, and all the bad things she doesn't really make her less cool. It just means that she can also do bad things, but also cool things. That's my take kind of on it. But again, we're gonna get into that later because that kind of reasoning and stuff that is gonna be relevant. Because Balor says, you need to look at things from multiple perspectives. So you have the cool perspective, you have the you did bad things perspective. I have to be careful about not giving things away, and it's tricky. I'm too tired to be rambling like this because of all the emotions that I was feeling. Because holy shit, he fucking died and came back to life. Anyway. You wonder... Oh, there are so many hints for why Ava and Hideyoshi are together. So many. You definitely need to look into that again. They have some scenes in episode 3 that get into it. Actually, it's mostly episode 3. It's there. Those two have a legit relation. Like they love each other. I have no doubt about that. Because I mean, I can just tell you right now, but if you're gonna rewatch it anyway, or reread anyway. Thank you all again for being on this ride with me. Really means a lot. I'll go into some of that next week when we wrap up episode 5, arc 5. And the ending to this one is quite spectacular, so stick around for that. And yeah. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging out here. I'm gonna be back on Monday. And I'm gonna play a game this time. Yeah, this was a long one. But I have 15 minutes of opening, so it's 3.5. That's a reasonable stream time. Yeah. But yes, I'm gonna play a game on Monday. And then we're gonna play this game, or read this novel, I guess, on Wednesday, as always. And yeah. It's gonna come to a spectacular close, and then if there's time, we'll start on 6. If there isn't, that's cool too. We're well past the halfway point. Definitely gonna finish the whole series, so that's amazing. And yeah, I'll try to get it up on YouTube as soon as possible with the fun fact about Lake Shirakaba? I can't read my handwriting. Anyway. Thank you all so much for watching. Whether you're in the chat, or lurking, or watching a VOD, I appreciate it a lot. And I will leave you with some music. Some of the new music from episode 5.
And Erica sucks.
But I love to hate her though. But yes, alright. Actually going now. Thank you again. See you next time. Have a great evening. What little remains of it. Have a great day, week. And sleep well also. Bye bye.